Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the reconnection space. And this is a solo one because I'm answering the questions that you are sending in, learning all about the world of therapy and what goes on and what it means to be a therapist, and answering some of those questions that perhaps are bothering you and you don't know where to go. And I had a great question set to me by one of my group, and they said, everybody loves a story and a story they can relate to. So what do you do as a therapist when you have a bad day? And they also asked, what are the 5 tools or go-to books or things that you do in order to help you through that? So I thought I would combine both of those and I would share with you what I do when I have a bad day, because you're so right. One of the misconceptions, especially when we talk about things like positive psychology, is that we should be happy all the time and we should be feeling positive all the time, and that is completely not how it is. We need to be feeling a whole range of emotions, and I, like everybody out there, have days when I feel low. I have days when I feel overwhelmed, and I have general days. You know those days when you just haven't got the mojo, the motivation, and you just can't get into your groove. So what do I do when I have one of those days? Well, the first thing I do is I move into my 3 principles of mindfulness. And I know I bang on about these a lot, but I stop and I think and I be present and I be mindful. And I actually just say, what's going on for me today? There must be a reason why I feel this way, but I'm not going to spend lots of time searching for that. I'm just going to say, this is how I'm feeling. The second thing in that list is acceptance. I don't need to force myself to feel better. If I'm having a day where I'm feeling that way, it's okay to feel that way. So it's okay to nurture yourself and just accept that some days are not as good as others in terms of the feelings that you're experiencing. You don't have to dive in all the time. And then my intention, well, how do I want to be today? This is about how am I feeling? So how am I going to address my day? And that really depends what's in my calendar, of course. Sometimes there are things you can cancel, sometimes there are. Ideally, when I'm feeling a bit and I'm not feeling great, one of the best things I do is I nurture that, and I allow myself to have those days, those duvet days, where I just sit and I read and I watch rubbish telly, and I comfort myself, and it's okay to eat those foods that you love. So all of those things that allow you to nurture your inner self and say, it's okay to feel this way. And that's my purpose as well. Another great go-to tool, though, is actually sometimes it does pay to lean in and be curious. Rather than getting yourself worked up about how you're feeling, why not do a bit of exploring? Why not dive in and say, okay, so I feel this way. Let's see what that feels like. Let's see where I feel that way. Because this diverts your brain into different activity. It gets the brain working. It gets the circulation going. Exercise. I love the gym. Well, I hate the gym, but I love the gym because I always feel better when I've exercised. Those feel-good endorphins that go around the body, it lifts the mind, it lifts the soul. So get out there, get out into nature if you can, go walking, get yourself active. So, you know, nurture yourself for a little while, but then get yourself up and ready to go. So my 3 principles of mindfulness, then there's my leaning in and being curious, then there's my nurturing myself, where I'm just going to allow myself to feel that way. I don't have to be full and positive every day, because how annoying would that be if everybody was like that? My positives list, really, really simple, but I talk about it a lot. Just sitting at the end of the day and reflecting on what's gone well and getting those 10 positives down on paper and making sure that you focus on completing that activity, because on those days when you don't feel great, those are the days when you dig deep. Those are the days when you really look for what's going on and where you've had some wins. And it could just be that cup of tea that you had. It could be that slice of cake you had. It could be that you've had a chat with a friend. It could be anything small, but get some of those down, start getting the brain refocused on some of those positive activities. Some of the books I love to read, when I'm not feeling great about things, I like books I can just pick up and put down. This is, as people know, my go-to book, What I Know for Sure by Oprah. You can see it's got a coffee stain on it. It's quite well worn and loved. I love to pick that book up and just find a passage and read it because it's simple, it's reflective. I keep it by the bedside because I can just reach out for it when I want some hints of inspiration. And similarly, another great book that I love is similar vein, Elanya Van Sant, Get Over It. And that's got loads of things in there, short snippets, short paragraphs, quotes, phrases, meditations, that allow you to just pick things up and put them down. Because when I'm feeling out of sorts, I don't want to have to be studying text. I just want to pick up and put down the books. And I love this book as well. The things you can only see when you slow down. Love this book. And again, it's got poems, it's got readings, it's got observations, but you can just pick it up and put them down. So I love those kinds of books. When I'm feeling overwhelmed, and this is a big one, I make lists. And that's not very deep and psychological, but I make lists. I unravel the spaghetti in my head and I put that down on paper and I look and see what is it that I actually need to do. So lots of tools that I use in order to help myself to move through that. And the important thing to remember is it's so okay to have these days. And what you need to notice is whether it's a day or whether that day is leaking into the next day and leaking into the next day. Because if you're finding it hard to actually take part in the activity of lifting yourself, then you may need some support for that. And that's the difference. And the other thing I do as well, and I'm very open about this, I cry. I let that emotion out, and there is no shame and there is no guilt. I cry at sad songs. Sad songs are the worst thing for me because I cry at them. I cry at things I read. Interestingly, since I've been doing my celebrancy work, I don't cry so much at things around funerals. Obviously, I do bereavement counselling. I don't cry, obviously, when I'm there with the person. But sometimes you need to let that emotion out. The emotion is building up, and a good cry is one of the best therapies you can do. So those are my top tips. Go back to my mindfulness practice, lean in and be curious and find out what's really going on. Nurture myself, don't be afraid to have the day off, sit on the settee, watch the movies, eat the chocolate, do what my body needs to do. I love books you can just pick up and put down, so feel free to share your favourite pick up and put down books because we'd love to see them on here. Exercising, getting out into nature, writing my positives and letting those emotions flow. Have a good cry if you need a good cry. So that's what I do. So that's answered your question. What does the therapist do when they're having a bad day? Oh, and of course the other thing I do is I talk to my therapist because everyone should have one, right? And it's always good to have somebody that you can talk to about how you're feeling. So I hope you've enjoyed that short episode, solo episode of the Reconnection Space. Look out for more episodes with guests. Send in your questions of what you want answered. Coming up, we've got episodes I'm going to be recording about acceptance and forgiveness. We've got one about PTSD. We've got one coming up about resilience, growth, grit, all of those things that are the buzzwords of the day. And we've been asked to do one about codependency. And also, of course, about the main topic where everything is underpinning, which is self-esteem. What is it? How it's formed. So loads of stuff coming up here on the Reconnection Space. See you soon. Take care. Have a mindful week.